In Unit 1, we started with geometry vocab. So here are some of the most common vocab terms. So the first word is bisect. Remember that means to cut into two equal parts. So you can bisect an angle, meaning you get two congruent angles. You can also bisect a segment. So if I have a segment and I want to bisect it, it would be, it could be the midpoint, a point going through the middle. It could be another line going through it, a segment going through it. But basically bisecting means you get two congruent parts. Perpendicular lines are two lines that intersect and they form right angles. Linear pair and supplementary are very similar. The difference between a linear pair and supplementary angles, linear pair can be any angles that form a straight line. So it doesn't have to just be two, it could be 3 or 4 angles that form a straight line. And supplementary have to be two angles. So I'm going to add that, two angles that add to 180. So when you talk about supplementary angles, they don't have to actually form the line, meaning you could have a picture like this where I have, this is an 80-degree angle, and then I have a 100-degree angle. They add to 180, but they're not forming a straight line in this picture, so you could still call those supplementary. A way to remember the difference between supplementary and complementary, supplementary, if you draw a line through the S, it looks like an 8, so 180 for supplementary. Where complementary, if I draw a line through the C, it looks like a 9. So angles that add to 90 degrees. And it should actually say two angles that add to 90 degrees. And then the last one's vertical angles. Vertical angles are formed whenever you have your intersecting lines. So you look for an X. So when you think vertical, think of an X. And they're always going to be equal to each other. So the angles across from each other are always equal. So using that vocab, let's look at some examples. So the first example here, we see this symbol here. Remember, this symbol means perpendicular. It just means perpendicular, nothing else. So that means AB and DB are perpendicular, so I can draw in a right angle here. But I can also extend that right angle to the other side because these two angles, or this whole thing and this whole thing, form a straight line. So if this is 90, then the other is 90. And then it says the measure of angle EBC. So EBC is 3 times EBD. And we're trying to find EBD. So EBD is what we're trying to find, so I'm going to put an X there. And EBC is 3 times that, so that means I'm going to put 3X there. So now in geometry, anytime you see a picture like this, you want to use your vocab, using what you know about that, to be able to set up an equation. So these two angles have to be complementary. They have to add to 90 because they form a right angle. So I can say 3x plus x equals 90. Now if you wanted to, you could have also said 3x plus x plus 90 equals 180 if you wanted to use the entire thing. I'm just using these two parts, so that's why I'm setting it equal to 90. Either way, you'd get the same answer though. So now I combine like terms. So we have 4x equals 90. Divide by 4. So you end up with x equals 22.5. Remember, control enter on the calculator if you want to be able to get a decimal. So then you got to make sure you answer the question. Well, the question says, what's the measure of EBD? So EBD is x. So in this case, my answer is x. So I'm just going to make sure that I answer it though. So the measure of angle EBD is 22.5 degrees. Number 2, we have two lines that are intersecting. So let's draw this picture. So any two lines, put A and B on them, are intersecting, and it doesn't matter the angle that they intersect, but you basically just have A and B, C and D. So C and D and A and B are just points on those lines, and then they intersect at E. Then we can label what's given to us. So AEC, AEC is 10x minus 40. BED is 8x plus 20. It says find the value of x. So again, figure out the relationship between these. Well, in this picture, you have vertical angles, and we know that vertical angles are congruent. So that means this whole angle is equal to that whole angle, so I set them equal. So 10x minus 40 equals 8x plus 20. So subtract 8x from both sides, add 40. So I get 2x equals 60. Divide by 2, we get x equals 30. The question said find the value of x, which is exactly what I have, so that means I'm done. And then the last one, you look at the relationship, and we see that all of these angles are around this point. So there's a rule that angles around a point have to add to 360 degrees. So I'm going to just make a note of that because that's my rule I'm using. So angles around a point add to 360. So I can go ahead and just add these up. So 85 plus 2x plus 35 plus x equals 360. And it doesn't matter the order that you add since addition's commutative. So now combine like terms. So 85 plus 35 gives me 120. 2x plus x gives me 3x equals 360. Subtract the 120 from both sides. So we get 3x equals 240. Divide by 3. And you get x equals 80. Ask yourself, did you answer the question? The question just said find the value of x, so that's it. So those are the types of problems using vocab or different types of properties that we talked about in Unit 1. So getting in the habit of writing your reasons is going to be good because a lot of times you're going to have to explain if these are short answer questions.